I've been pulling California housing numbers every single week for months now, and I found one that stopped me cold. In one Los Angeles neighborhood, a family owned a home worth $3.7 million, paid off, no mortgage, free and clear. Today they're selling a bare, ash-covered lot for less than $2 million. That's not a market dip. That's a life savings, cut nearly in half, overnight. And here's the part that got me. While this is happening, California's statewide home price just hit a record high. So how do you lose everything in a market that's supposedly booming? That's what this whole video is about. And if you want the real numbers, not the headlines, do me one favor and hit subscribe, because this stuff hits your wallet whether you're watching or not. Number 10. Chico and Paradise. We're starting with a place that should be a ghost town, and instead, it's the fastest growing town in the entire state. Paradise, California. You remember the name. In 2018, the Camp Fire burned it to the ground and killed dozens of people. The population went from around 26,000 down to under 5,000. Gone. And now, Paradise grew more than 9% in a single year. It's leading California in housing growth. Let that sit for a second. Here's what's pulling people back. Just down the hill, Chico's median sale price is sitting around $419,000. And it climbed partly because fire refugees flooded in and never left. So Paradise became the last affordable option nearby. People are rebuilding brand new homes on the exact lots where houses burned with people inside. Half a street is fresh stucco. The other half is still bare dirt and a lone scorched oak. And here's the catch nobody wants to say out loud. Can you even insure a rebuilt home on the mountain that produced America's deadliest modern wildfire? A lot of folks up there are leaning on the state's last resort plan, or going without. Honestly, I understand the pull. It's cheaper, it's home, there's over $1 billion in rebuild money floating around. But building back into a proven kill zone because it's the only thing you can afford, that's not a recovery. That's a gamble with the same dice. And it's the mildest warning on this list. Keep that in mind. Number 9. Barstow. Now let's flip it completely. Because not every warning is about losing money. Some are about why something's so cheap in the first place. Barstow. High desert. Out on the I-15. About 25,000 people. And in a state where the average home runs near $900,000, you can buy a house here, in the low 200s. I'm talking real, 3-bedroom houses under $300,000. Some closer to $240,000. Sounds like a dream, right? Here's the fine print. There are hundreds of listings in a town this size. That's a lot of inventory chasing not a lot of buyers. Barstow sits in the broader Inland Empire, where home sales in 2025 came in about 4% below the year before, and the whole region has cooled to what agents now call a balanced market. The people buying here are first-timers, retirees on fixed incomes, folks fleeing coastal prices who can finally pay cash for a whole house. And what you get is genuinely a lot of house. But the trade-offs are brutal and real. Triple-digit summer heat, a thin job market tied to trucking and the freeway corridor, and an hour plus of empty desert between you and anything major. My honest take? For the price of 1 year of private school in coastal California, you can own a home outright out here. That's not nothing. Just go in with your eyes open about what you're actually buying. Cheap, but far from everything. Let's keep moving. Number 8. California City. If Barstow made you raise an eyebrow, this next one is going to sound made up. California City. It's technically the 3rd largest city in the whole state by land area, and almost nobody lives there. Roughly 15,000 people, on a footprint built for hundreds of thousands. Back in the 50s and 60s, a developer platted out an entire metropolis in the Mojave, meant to rival Los Angeles. He carved streets, named them, paved them, added stop signs, the whole grid, and then the people never came. So today you've got homes selling from around $230,000 to $295,000, sitting inside a vast lattice of empty roads that lead absolutely nowhere. From an airplane, it looks like a full city. Streets, intersections, the works. On the ground, you can stand at the corner of two paved roads and see nothing but desert in every direction. A stop sign, guarding an intersection with no houses. It's genuinely eerie. Now, who buys here? Bargain hunters, remote workers, land speculators betting the grid finally fills in someday. You can own a whole house for less than a garage costs in LA. But be clear, this isn't a 2026 crash. This is a boom that never happened, frozen in place for 60 years. The town's tied to a nearby Air Force base and a prison. Services are stretched thin across all that empty ground. And betting on it filling up is exactly that, a bet. I find the place fascinating, honestly. But fascinating and livable aren't the same word. On to number 7. Number 7. Riverside and the Inland Empire. Here's where the story gets less quirky and more personal, because this one hits regular working families right in the mortgage. Riverside and the wider Inland Empire led California's entire pandemic housing boom. Everybody wanted out of the expensive coast. Remote work was king, and prices here went vertical. That party's over. Sales dropped for the third straight year. 2025 came in about 4% under 2024. Prices didn't crash, but they stopped climbing and stalled out. Average sold prices in Riverside County now run somewhere around $630,000 to $700,000, and agents who spent years in bidding war mode are suddenly describing a balanced market. Buyers can ask for inspections again, for repairs, for price cuts. That's a seismic shift from 2021. Picture it. Whole cul-de-sacs of near-identical beige stucco homes, bought at the absolute peak by families chasing the work-from-home dream. And now the return-to-office emails are landing. Because the entire value proposition here, cheaper if you never have to commute, is quietly falling apart as companies drag people back downtown 2 hours away. So here's who's stuck. The 2021 buyer who stretched every dollar on cheap money, who now can't sell for a gain and can't refinance into these rates. My honest opinion, the Inland Empire isn't collapsing. But if you bought at the top betting on permanent remote work, you made a bet the market is now calling. And that bet's looking shaky. Number 6 is where it gets darker. Number 6, Clear Lake. This one breaks people's brains when they see the listings. Clear Lake, up in Lake County. The median listing price on the market recently? Around $105,000. Not a typo. You can buy a house here for less than a lot of people spend on a truck. Countywide, the typical value sits closer to $210,000. And Lake County is one of the very few places in California actually posting a real year-over-year decline. One report had the county median dropping from around $345,000 down to $315,000. In a state hitting record highs, that's almost unheard of. So why is it this cheap? Because the map around it is stitched together from old burn scars. Lake County has burned again and again. The Valley Fire, the Mendocino Complex, others. Insurance is expensive when you can get it at all. And a lot of homes only carry fire coverage through the state's last resort plan. Incomes are low. Buyers are mostly people priced completely out of the Bay Area, about 2 hours south, who can finally afford 4 walls and a roof near a beautiful lake. Here's my honest read. A house for the price of a used SUV sounds incredible, until you understand the price tag is telling you the truth. It's cheap because the risk is real. That's not a bargain glitch. That's the market pricing in fire. Beautiful lake. Very hard math. Quick thing before we push into the back half. The next 4 towns are genuinely worse than everything we've covered. The sinking one. The one being switched off at the wall. And the number one that made me reread the data 3 times. If you haven't subscribed yet, right now is the moment. because you're going to want to see how this ends. Number 5. Merced, Madeira, and the Central Valley. Okay, this one is unlike anything else on the list, because the problem isn't the market, it's physics. Across the San Joaquin Valley, Merced, Madeira, Chowchilla, and the counties around them, the ground is literally sinking, and it's dragging home values down with it. A 2025 study out of UC Riverside matched satellite sinking data against nearly 200,000 home sales. What they found is wild. Homes in the sinking zones lost between 2 and roughly 6% of their value, somewhere between about $6,700 and $16,000 per house, for reasons no renovation on Earth can fix. All told, around $1.87 billion in home value. Gone. Swallowed by the ground. And here's how it feels at the kitchen sink. In parts of Madera County, families have watched their private wells run dry, from Madera Acres out to the Bonadel Ranchos, forcing folks onto hauled water and county mitigation programs. Imagine turning the tap and getting nothing, while the very land under your foundation drops inches in a single year. Why is it happening? Decades of overpumping groundwater for farming, the aquifer compacts, and the surface caves. It's so serious the state placed the Tulare Lake subbasin under formal groundwater probation. My take? Every other problem on this list you can theoretically insure against or wait out. You cannot wait out gravity. That's what makes this one quietly terrifying. Number 4. Oakland. Now we hit the numbers that made national headlines, for all the wrong reasons. Oakland has the worst performing condo market of any major American city that gets tracked. Not one of the worst. The worst. Condo prices in Oakland are down 26% from their spring 2022 peak. And they weren't easing down gently. At one stretch in 2025, they were falling almost 2% every single month. That dragged prices all the way back to where they were in early 2016. Think about that. Nearly a decade of gains, erased. So picture the person this crushes. Someone bought a starter condo in 2022, did everything right, called it their first step onto the ladder. Today that unit is worth what it sold for in 2016, and they're still paying the mortgage. They can't sell without eating a loss. They can't refinance at these rates. They're trapped in the thing that was supposed to build their wealth. And it's not just price. Condo owners across the region are getting hit by a triple punch. HOA dues climbing, insurance costs spiking, and buildings landing on a mortgage blacklist that makes financing nearly impossible. Add in tech layoffs and Oakland's reputation problem, and demand just thinned out. Here's my honest opinion. If you're shopping condos in the Bay right now, you might get a screaming deal. But make absolutely sure you know your building's insurance and reserve situation first. That's where people are getting quietly wrecked. Number 3, raises the stakes again. Number 3, San Francisco. Staying in the Bay, because San Francisco has the single most jaw-dropping receipt on this entire list. And it's got nothing to do with the sale price. It's the insurance bill. There's a condo complex in the city, 134 units, where the building's shared insurance premium jumped from $98,000 to $964,000. In 1 year. Same building. That's roughly $7,000 extra per unit, dropped on ordinary owners with no warning. One resident who'd bought in for $675,000 watched the association burn $44,000 of reserves on a single balcony repair after water stains showed up. And San Francisco condos overall, down 16% from their peak, back to 2015 prices. It now takes nearly twice as long to sell a condo as a house, the widest gap in 20 years. Here's what's cornering people. A state balcony safety law forcing expensive inspections, an insurance market that nearly collapsed, and a confidential blacklist of around 780 buildings statewide that quietly blocks buyers from getting normal mortgages. You can't even see if your building's on it. Let that sink in. You can own your unit outright. do nothing wrong, and open a renewal letter where the premium suddenly has an extra comma in it. That's not a market dip. That's a financial guillotine hanging over an entire building. And honestly, this scares me more than a price drop. Because you can't outvote it, outweight it, or out-earn it fast enough. Which brings us to number 2. Number 2, Susanville. This one's different. It's not fire, it's not insurance, it's not the ground. It's a decision made in an office in Sacramento, and it's switching off an entire town at the wall. Susanville, way up in Lassen County, near the Nevada line, about 15,000 people. It's a prison town. Always has been. Correctional jobs are the backbone. Stable, benefited, the kind of work you build a whole life around. But California's incarcerated population has been falling, and the state's been closing prisons to save money. 4 already shut, a 5th proposed, and the California Rehabilitation Center is set to close by fall of 2026. When a prison closes in a town this small, it's not a bad quarter. It's hundreds of secure jobs gone at once, and every diner, gas station, and rental that lived off those paychecks goes with them. Susanville understood exactly what was coming. The town actually sued the state to stop it, and largely lost. So picture a quiet main street in a high desert valley, ringed with pine, a shuttered institution on the edge of town, and for sale signs on modest homes that suddenly have no obvious buyer, because the paychecks that supported those mortgages are walking out with the last shift. Here's the part that stays with me. This is a town that begged, in a courtroom, not to be erased. That's what makes it so different from everything else on this list. Nobody up there overpaid, or gambled, or ignored a risk. The risk was a policy decision, and it landed on them anyway. Number 1 is the one I still can't shake. Number 1, Pacific Palisades and Altadena. And here we are, the one that started this whole video for me. Because this isn't a slow decline, or a cooling market, or a bad bet. This is the biggest wipeout of home value on the entire list, and it happened in a matter of hours. In January of 2025, Wildfire tore through 2 of Los Angeles's most established, most beloved neighborhoods, Pacific Palisades and Altadena. When the smoke cleared, the numbers were almost impossible to believe. In the Palisades, the typical sale price fell from around $3.6 or $3.7 million before the fire, down to somewhere between $1.9 and $2.4 million after. In Altadena, the median collapsed from roughly $1.35 million to about $650,000. That's a drop of more than $700,000 on a normal home. And across both neighborhoods together, an estimated $8.3 billion in home value. Erased. Now slow down and picture what that actually means for a real person. These weren't struggling towns. These were places where families paid off their homes decades ago and planned to pass them down. And now, they're standing on a bare, ash-gray foundation pad, a lone chimney rising like a headstone, deciding whether to rebuild in a proven burn zone with punishing insurance, or sell the scorched dirt and walk away. And here's the detail that genuinely made me angry when I read it. Investors have been buying up roughly 2 out of every 5 lots that sell. 2 in 5. So the people replacing those multi-generational families aren't neighbors coming home. They're speculators with cash, buying the land of a community that got burned out. Closings in Altadena are down about 40%. Around a quarter of the vacant land listings have already cut their price. The fire killed at least 31 people, destroyed more than 18,000 structures, and it hit at the exact moment California's insurance market was already on its knees, with major insurers pulling back, and the state later going after one of them over how it handled claims. So even the families who want to rebuild are staring down a wall of impossible math. Here's my honest final take. A family that owned a $3.7 million home, free and clear, is now handed a check for scorched dirt that's worth less than what their neighbors' houses traded for a year earlier. That is the truest version of everything this video is about. A market can look like it's hitting record highs on the news and quietly swallow entire neighborhoods whole. That's the part nobody's ready for. Look, if even one of these towns is where you live or where you were about to buy, tell me in the comments which one and what you're seeing on the ground. I genuinely read them, and the local details you all leave are better than half the reports I dig through. If this opened your eyes even a little, send it to the one person you know who's about to buy, sell, or move in California, before they sign anything, not after. And subscribe, because I track this stuff every single week, and the market's moving faster than the headlines will admit. One last thing to sit with. The most dangerous place to own a home isn't the one that looks scary. It's the one that looks completely fine, right up until it doesn't.